Hey everybody, September 1st is the date that you need to be turning in a resume. And I wanted to talk with you just a little bit about what a resume should look like. This is an example that is applied to you. This is a previous student that has been in our broadcast journalism sequence. You want to make sure that you put your name, address, phone number, and email. Do not use your ASU email. This needs to be an email that you will carry with you through your entire lifetime. It ought to have your name on it. A Gmail account is probably a good one. Yahoo, Hotmail, any of those. Just make sure that you don't use an email account that says I'm redhot@hotmail.com or some other type of email that might be suggestive in terms of anything. This is business. This ought to be a business email that you use, and it's one that you should check. Also, on your phone number, make sure that you are using the phone number that you plan to keep for a long time, because this will go with you as well. The next thing that you want to do is you want to include an objective. This could be broadcast journalism. This could be graphic communication. Any of our emphasis areas. If you're a broad generalist, do that. You may also want to add an additional thing here, which might be your slogan statement. This is a 4 to 5 word description of who you are. You might put something like driven, motivated, and ready to work. I will be your on-time person. And we'll probably need to go back there and say I am driven. And I will be your on-time person. This is me. Something that grabs somebody's attention so that they know, wow, this person is interesting. I want to find out a little bit more. You want not only your resume, but you want a cover letter to explain who you are and what you do. We're doing this at the beginning of the semester. There are multiple ways to do this. I want to encourage you to put your work experience first. This work experience will include things that you have done, let's say anything related to your specific major or the job that you plan to apply for. So if you've done internships, maybe you have been you've worked in the business, you've worked at a radio station, you worked at a print shop, you worked at an advertising agency. Those are the things that go first. Most recent goes first. Okay, most recent ought to go first. Identify in some kind of bullet form the year that you did whatever you did. Explain a little bit about what you did and how you did it. You can put skills here, or you could put your skills down here where you're proficient in whatever kind of software, hardware, anything that you have used equipment-wise in this building ought to be put there. If you're a PR major, or maybe you're a some other type of major, you ought to put things that you can do, skills that you have and possess, okay? Then the next thing is, what did you do in your classes that is specific? Because many of you might not have work experience in the field, but you did things inside your class. So for instance, in this case, somebody directed 2 talk shows, operated camera equipment. They ought to have put, let's say, the type of camera equipment they used in the studio to do that. Even communication research. This was a paper that was done by the student It was accepted at Southern States Association. That's the kind of stuff that you need to include in your resume. Additionally, let's say you work some other jobs. So during the time you were in college, you also did these other things where you actually got paid. Indicate those. I would probably put the dates back over here. I would move them because that's what you did up here in the earlier resume. And so please make sure that you include all of that stuff there. In addition, any extracurricular activities that you might have done, whether you served as a president or secretary or an officer in any of these groups, whether you did things that help the community with your work, any of that should go there. Academic honors, community service, then your education. Well, it comes last because the people want to know what you can do. And so you can certainly put in here what your emphasis was, what your minor was, what your GPA was. Put your graduation expected date. Don't put the current date. You put the date that you expect to graduate in there. And then don't ask somebody, a lot of people put references upon request. Well, that's a waste of time. The person who's looking at them doesn't have time. So you go ahead and you get your 3 references and you get their names, their addresses, and you make sure that you have talked to each one of these references and that they are willing to give you a good reference. Remember this, just because you've had a teacher in class does not mean that they will be a good reference. You want to make sure that you ask people who will give you a good reference. You may need to ask them if you've burned some bridges in the past. You may need to clean those bridges up and rebuild them so that you will have references. Teachers are not going to remember the grade. They are going to remember, did you come to class? Did you show up? Did you turn your work in on time? That's what they want to know because that's what an employer wants to know. And they want to know if you're trainable, if you're receptive to constructive criticism. Those are the things that they ask us when they call us up on the phone. Don't surprise a reference. If you're submitting a job application, you make sure you always email those references ahead of time and say, just a heads up, I want you to know that I am submitting this application and you're on the list of references this time. And you will ask them. And don't be dismayed if somebody says, no, I don't want to be a reference for you. You go find someone who will be a reference for you. But you need to remember this. People will call people beyond that 3-person reference list. So you need to make sure that you have people that you're surrounded by that will be willing to give you a good reference. Also, there's something called a criminal background check. And if you have something that's happened in the past, where let's say you got a misdemeanor or something like that, and you apply for a job and you don't tell the reference person about that, then you are jeopardizing your chances of getting that job. Please make sure that a reference is aware of it. Sometimes we make foolish mistakes and we may pay for it, but on the backside, there's a process of renewal and second chances. And so you have to remember that those references need to know the situation. I had a situation last year where I was asked to be a reference. And then I found out later that that individual had a misdemeanor. And I knew about it in advance. So I was able to talk with one of the people who called me about this person. And so please make sure that your references are familiar with your background. They don't want to lie. They don't want to be put in a bad situation. So don't put them in that bad situation. So this resume is due September 1st at 9:30 a.m. And this will be your first resume. And we will actually walk through and clean it up and try to get some things in there. I'm going to be your best salesperson. I want you to succeed, and a resume gets you partially there. Remember, this resume is going to wind up being on your personal branding website. You have to have a website. You have to have a resume. You have to have a portfolio. If you look at your resume today and you say, I don't have anything to show for my college career. I don't have a news article. I don't have a graphic design piece. I don't have a show. I don't have a newscast. I don't have a package. I don't have those things to put on here. Then you've got to get busy. This is going to be your busy semester. You're going to have access to the equipment. You're going to be able to get into all of the labs. You're going to need to be able to showcase your work. You're creating a portfolio for yourself through this online personal branding website. And this resume today will help you figure out whether you're prepared to actually have a good portfolio and a good online stamp out there, good brand out there for yourself.